The reason I got into the non-alcoholic beverage industry is because I geeked out on liquor, beer, and wine as a bartender for a little over 20 years and loved it. I loved finding really cool beverages, sharing them with customers, talking about them, hanging out with other bartenders that were into that thing for over 20 years. And then I stopped drinking, and I could see that there was a non-alcoholic thing coming. There was a whole market that was about to burst, and I really wanted to geek out on liquor, beer, and wine that was all non-alcoholic. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, my choosing to take alcohol out of my life freed up a lot of brain space, because with alcohol it was what I would think about on any given day, and it was about 80% of my life. So when I took out alcohol, that was 80% of my life, besides eating and sleeping, that left a really big space to fill. So I was really interested in what actually would fill that space.
The Ocean Beach Cafe was one of the first non-alcoholic beverage places to serve non-alcoholic beverages in the city. How has it been being one of the first pioneers of the industry here in San Francisco?
Opening the first non-alcoholic bar and bottle shop in San Francisco, the first one on the West Coast, and one of the first 2 or 3 in the entire country, has been one of the most amazing things that I could ever imagine participating in, since people drinking less was something that I could see was going to come, but that was in 2020. So in 2021, when I opened, I was like, this is probably going to take about a year for people to really get. And actually, it ended up being that. So I opened in dry January of 2021, and it was dry January of 2022 where I could see like a noticeable difference in the customers that come in, because people come in here for coffee and sandwiches. That was the whole point, was to lure people in with that, so I could show them this whole wall of bottles and let them know that it exists and what it looked like. That was very successful, because since I got to talk to 20,000 people that year, I could see like what the public awareness was of the category and like how it was growing over time. And now that this place is almost 5 years old, it's like, it's a household subject now, which is very different than 4 years ago.
You opened in like 2021, 2022. Just coming out of quarantine, do you think that really helped you grow as a business?
Opening a cafe during COVID was, a lot of people are like, wow, that was really brave. But also other people say invest during a recession, right? So if you're starting at the bottom, it can only go up from there. But I had a couple other things that were really good for this business. And that was, I was by the beach, which was kind of a safe place during COVID. And we were still allowed to serve food. It was masks on, there was no indoor dining. But it was one of the places that was open, and it was one of the only places in the city that did open during that time. So there ended up being a lot of grants and subsidies that were available in San Francisco specifically that actually really helped me get through my first year, and ended up being the best time that I could have started.
Are you against the consumption of alcohol?
I am not at all against people that do consume alcohol. And I don't know any one of these brands or movers and shakers in the non-alcoholic beverage industry that are like, oh, shame on you, you drink alcohol, that's dumb. Nobody's doing that. And there's a lot of misconceptions, misinformation. There's a lot of preconceived notions as to what non-alcoholic is, like the market, who participates in it. It's really important to note that the people that are really into this stuff and come in here and buy this stuff, most of them do drink. A lot of people think it's like, oh, it's a sober bar, it's a sober cafe. And it's like, no, 90% of people that buy non-alcoholic beverages online do drink. And I like sharing that because there's several things that are very different than what people think they are. And that's one of them. But nobody in my industry is like demonizing alcohol. And it kind of already does that itself.
Elaborating a little bit on the demographic that really buys non-alcoholic beverages. What demographic, what genre of person buys non-alcoholic beverages?
Yeah. So you can think of it in 2 camps. There's people that do drink, and there's a lot of them that have an interest in drinking less, right? There's people that don't drink, and they have an interest in finding some of the cool stuff that has come out. So what kind of cool beverages have come out? I'm interested in those. I don't drink. That's a big life decision. Like, they're actively searching and trying to find stuff that's good. So then you have different generations that are choosing not to drink, and they're for very different reasons. So Gen Z, which is like college kids and over the age of 21, are going to be not drinking as much in previous generations for different reasons. And then you have millennials, which would be me, which is like 30s to 40s, that are not drinking as much because maybe they want more wellness in their lives. They don't drink like they did in their 20s and 30s. And it's just, they're just a little more conscious of what they're putting in their bodies. And then you got Gen X, which is like in their 50s, and they're just kind of aging out of alcohol. They're kind of stuck in their ways, drinking the same as well. And then you have boomers, which are just aging out of alcohol. So you have these 4 different generations that are drinking less for different reasons. And it's disrupting the alcohol industry because all 4 of them are participating in drinking less, and they're not getting their guaranteed, in this case, Gen Z demographic going into alcohol like previous generations, which just shows that the pendulum swings towards wellness. If you think about it, if I think back at my grandparents and my parents, they did things a certain way, and that's just the way it was. And then as the decades have gone along, people are just more aware, more conscious. And there's just more wellness in the world, and the pendulum swings in that direction. That's also why the alcohol industry is being disrupted.
There's a lot of like evolving social habits, like Dry January and other sober curious like movements or trends. Have you really noticed, has that really impacted your business in the sense that a lot more younger people or like more people that are on social media participating in these trends? How has that impacted the industry?
The sober curious movement is a huge one, and I think there's multiple different names. There's also the non-alcoholic movement. Like, as a bartender, I like to use that one, and I use the sober curious movement because when I first saw sober curious as a phrase, I was like, yes, that's great, because it's so much more inclusive. It can get people so much more interested in it just by the wording of it, and words matter. Or there's the modern sobriety movement that my wife likes to use, and I love that one too. And then sometimes I'm like, the non-alcoholic and modern sobriety movement, and like I'll like lump them all together. But it's absolutely impacted my business for sure, because there's a very visible graph of statistics that show how many people are interested in these things and how much they're drinking of them. And it's a hockey stick. It just went from, like, think about 2019 to 2020, a bunch of people drank. In 2021, a bunch of people were drinking. And then it was like, whoop, and there was a huge correction, and then like 500 brands came out, and then people got to learn about them, and they got interested in them, and Ocean Beach Cafe came up because we're the ground zero for that whole conversation, and it absolutely impacts business. And when you open a non-alcoholic beverage focused space, you get like 80 articles written about you. It's amazing.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on young people's decision or different sentiment towards alcohol than older generations?
I see the younger generation that is of drinking age, so this would be Gen Z, is drinking less for, it's kind of like 4 or 5 major reasons that are actually kind of different from each other. One of them is they want to take care of their bodies, they want to take care of the environment, and they're more conscious of these things, and are things organic or sustainably sourced? I think another part of it has to do with drinking for image reasons isn't a good look with Gen Z. Like, if you grew up with a phone in front of your face, that's your image and your character. Being intoxicated, doing something stupid may not be something that you want to do for your other peers to see. And then, like, it just seemed to go around in Gen Z, like, I don't know, drinking is just kind of, it's just a little cringe maybe. Maybe they saw their parents drinking a lot during COVID, and that was a reason why some of them were like, I don't know, like, I drink sometimes, but I'm not really feeling it. So that would be another reason, Gen Z. But I think there's a money aspect to this as well. They don't have a ton of money, and like the discretionary spending towards traveling to a bar, going to a bar. Now the drinks are $18 a piece, but then you have taxes, and then you have tips. So it's not an $18 drink, it's a $25 drink. And like, just for one. But I think health would be the major driver, price, And then people aren't going out to socialize as much since they grew up with social media and phones in their faces. And I think it has yet to really be studied, but it could be that a byproduct of growing up with phones in our face actually wires something different in the brain for what its reward system is, and that isn't being sought out socially. So social spaces are actually on the decline in general, but I see some good news there in that the social spaces will change because of this, and we'll have some amazing social spaces that are absolutely based on a non-alcoholic option in the future.
Do you guys sell, I see mushroom drinks, do you guys sell like THC, CBD drinks, or other stuff like that?
The functional beverages are like what I'm most passionate about, because the industry started trying to copy the alcohol world with non-alcoholic whiskeys and tequilas and mezcals, and then we started seeing things that actually have some function. So lion's mane, ashwagandha, cordyceps, rhodiola. There's all these herbs and adaptogens and nootropics and nervines that aren't trying to copy the alcohol world and have benefits for the body, which is the stuff I'm into the most. As for the alternative buzz conversation, you mentioned, is there THC sold here? There was for a couple of years when it was legal to do so. And that was a neat thing to be able to offer to folks, because there is a lot of people that are still looking for some kind of buzz. They just know that they don't want it to be alcohol. And California stopped the ability to have hemp-derived THC specifically in places that could federally legally sell them outside of dispensaries. They stopped that last September. So there's states now that are allowed to sell hemp-derived THC that are becoming disallowed too. I think Texas is next, which, if I may say on that note, I think it's really too bad, because THC hasn't really been known to kill people, but alcohol has multiple hundreds of thousands of deaths attributed to it. And there's a real disparity between those two things, because THC is actually helping people drink less, and why would they cancel the accessibility to it, especially in social spaces?
Can you elaborate a little bit on like THC, CBD is getting people to drink?
So California got rid of the ability to sell hemp-derived THC, and I thought that was a really big disservice to society, especially in places like this that were selling it at 2 milligrams, 5 milligrams, where people could get a buzz, see like, what kind of alcoholic am I? And let's see how that goes. And for the first 6 months, it was fine. And the next 6 months, not so much. And then the final year or so after that, it just wasn't good at all. Like, you kind of fell back into it. And it was not great at all. I do not drink. It's easy for me to not drink. And I'm so glad that I get to wake up every day, ready to take on the freaking world, instead of waking up being like, I hate myself so much. So it's a very different life if I give myself permission to drink or if I don't. This is a very, very clear path for me to take.
Did you ever have a problem, or have you always just been very mindful?
Yeah, I've never had a problem saying that I was an alcoholic. I mean, by definition, what is it, 3 drinks a day or something? Easy. It would be weird for me to not go to bed intoxicated. That was just a normal way of life. And that just got really taxing. It was okay when my body could process it more efficiently until my early 30s. That's when the hangovers got really bad and it was really starting to mess with my system. But it wasn't until I was 38 years old when I finally decided to take the long term off of not drinking. And it was a lifestyle for me. It was super fun as a traveling bartender, drinking happy hours, sitting at bars, talking to bartenders, making drinks at a bunch of different bars. It was so fun until it wasn't, and that needed to stop. So.
Have you noticed anything kind of negative happening within the industry, or has it been positive since you started?
Yeah. As for negatives in the non-alcoholic beverage industry, there's a few things that come to mind. One of them is products that are coming out that aren't great. So there's a lot of stuff in non-alc that's just there's a lot of noise. I wish there was more signal. I wish there was more amazing beverages that are super inspiring. And it is all going in that direction. I just wish it would happen a little faster.
Okay.
Other negativity that I see happening directed at the non-alcoholic beverage world is just is rhetoric. Like they talk about a neo-prohibitionist, or they talk about anti-alcohol movement, and I'm just like, it's sad to see. There is no war here. This is about people just wanting to live healthier lives. It's about wellness. The entire world should be on board for wellness. And so if we have big alcohol having rhetoric, they would, right? I mean, they're trying to protect a $1 trillion industry that's established in society for so long. I get it. But there's no war going on. Everything here is positive. And yeah, it's all very bright, light, and positive in the non-alcoholic beverage world for sure. There's a few things that I think are really important, and that is there needs to be awareness of this category in society in general. And I'm so passionate about getting that awareness to millions of people at a time, because I talk to people every day about non-alc, and they don't even have like 101 knowledge of what's going on. And if they did, I know that more people would be drinking less, and there would be a lot more people that wouldn't be drinking at all. And so for society as a whole, that's a positive thing. So getting to know this stuff, you guys making a documentary is so important, because it's letting more people know what's actually going on in this industry. And I also want to let people know that it's so much cooler than people think. Non-alcoholic sounds like mocktails and weird non-alcoholic beers, and it's not that at all. It's so much cooler. And I encourage people to learn more about what's going on in this space. Visit your local non-alcoholic bar and bottle shop. Try some of the new products, and it's all super cool stuff. I wish more of the bartenders knew about what was good, because then we'd have more options when we were out. But that's all coming. So whatever it takes to let people know what's really going on in this industry, what's good, and what it means for the way that society gets together, socializes, and connects, is going to be one of the biggest conversations in society right now. That alcohol is being disrupted, and that people are choosing to drink less. And this time period will go down in history when all of that started. Every generation is drinking less. So right now we have Gen Z's statistics that half of them aren't drinking. So what is Gen Alpha going to be? Like, we already know they're going to be drinking even less, and going to be interested in health even more. But I also think that there's probably going to be some stuff, some alternative buzz stuff that they will be interested in, that'll be something new and novel, because new and novel molecules can be created at any time. So it'd be interesting to see, like, those futuristic movies that were like in a spaceship pulling out some drink that gives you some kind of buzz. I think we're going to start seeing some stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that the focus is still on things that are doing good things for us and not bad things for our brain and bodies. Legalizing cannabis has made it more accessible to consume something that affects the nervous system in the body and gives you a buzz. And that is an alternative to alcohol, which has its own vibe. You know, alcohol is a very strong frequency, and there's just a lot of people that don't want to participate in it as much. And I think most people have tried cannabis, and maybe they like it. So having it as more accessible, then in the meta on that whole thing is that more people are going to be participating in it as people are visibly drinking less alcohol.